There's a quote in The Lord of the Rings that I really like. It's by Frodo. Frodo says to Boromir, "It would seem like wisdom, but for the warning in my heart." And he says, Boromir says, "Warning against what?" And Frodo says, "Against delay, against the way that seems easier, against refusal of the burden that is laid on me." And in life, we often are given counsel by other people of what we ought to be doing. Everyone has their 2 cents on what we should be chasing after. And on the surface, it would seem to be wisdom, because people say things that sound good. They say, here's something you can get without having to work for it or needing to earn it. They'll be sold on something and they'll try to get you to be sold on it too. But I often think about how it's important to make up your own mind and think for yourself. Sometimes we suspend our own conviction and our own rational minds in favor of falling in line with other people's expectations. And that tends not to end well. It's true sometimes that if you do what other people are telling you you ought to do, you will come out ahead. But there's other times when you don't. And if you fail at something, you make a bad call, and then you have to own up to it, and you look at the decision that you made, and you say, I know that I could have done better. I did the best I knew how to do in the circumstances before me. And now I take ownership of the outcome. And maybe I learn some lessons for the future. Then you know that the shortcomings that have cost you are lessons that you've learned. You know that it's an investment in yourself as you grow and become a better person on the journey of life. But if you're a follower, if you're just doing what other people have told you that you need to do, you don't really get that payoff. If things go south and all you are doing is following in line with somebody's expectation of what they thought you should be doing, that's really sort of a slap in the face when it goes bad. Because then you just have to acknowledge that you were being a moron. You were following right along, not thinking for yourself, not asking questions critically, just going along with the herd. And that stings a lot more and a lot differently, because it's hard to not only come to terms with the fact that you failed in some way, but to know that maybe you wouldn't have if you just would have thought for yourself and made up your own mind about a matter. But instead you were thinking to yourself, well, it worked for him, so I don't want to miss out, so I guess I'll jump on the bandwagon. And sometimes we overlook how common and how easy it is for rational people to follow each other to a common destruction. As the Bible once said, the road to hell is a wide one on which many people travel, but the path of righteousness is narrow, and very few people will find it. We live in a time where people define their lives and their actions by what their friends are doing. Everyone has access to some variety of social media and peer pressure, and we all are looking at our friends and neighbors to see what they think about things. And then we act like we've made up our own mind, but really we just kind of cave to what other people are doing and thinking. There's a study that I once read about, and what happened was the conductors of the study told the people they were studying that they were going to give them a written test, and they needed to sit down at desks and fill out the questionnaire. And they put some of the people participating in this study into a big auditorium together, and then the other half of them they put into little rooms by themselves. And what the people being studied didn't know is that the study had nothing to do with the questions on the paper that they were filling out. What was actually happening is that smoke was being put into the rooms through the vents where they were sitting. Just a little bit at a time, the rooms were getting smoky. And the real test was how long would they sit there before they would notice the smoke and say something. And it turned out that the people in the group, the ones in the auditorium all together, they sat there and they didn't say anything about the smoke for quite a while the people who were by themselves reported the smoke much sooner. The reason is because in the auditorium, everyone who suspected that they might be sensing smokiness just looked around at everyone else, and because no one else was moving, they assumed that they were just imagining it, and that if there really was something wrong, then of course someone else would have inevitably noticed and said something, so it must just be them. So it was proven that despite the fact that the smoke was obvious, when people were in a group, they were slower to notice and slower to react. And I think that's really true in life in many, many cases, where we would make reasonably good choices if we were just trusting our own judgment and our own intuition. But when we're in a group, we can often be deceived into making the same poor choice or exhibiting the same bad habit pattern again and again because we allow the groupthink to hold us back. That's one reason it's a really good idea to learn to be a little bit separate from other people so that you can hear yourself think and not be totally sucked up into the expectations others have for what you ought to think and do. And that can be hard when you do respect people in your life and you want to listen to your friends, and maybe you do respect the value of their opinions, but you gotta step back enough to realize that even if you respect someone's opinions, and even if often they have really good opinions, that does not mean that it's okay to let them think for you. And it's also true that sometimes the cost of thinking for yourself and doing what you believe to be best is that you will miss out on things that other people will profit from or benefit from in some way. And as much as that might feel regrettable, that's okay, because it's better to follow your own best judgment and come up short than it is to ride on somebody else's success and never understand the fundamentals of what actually creates success. So learn to think for yourself and understand it's okay to say, you know what, I don't know. I don't know where I stand on something, and yes, I think your opinions are great, but with all due respect, I'm gonna sit on the sidelines a little longer and contemplate this and probably not exactly take anything you say as gospel truth. People don't like that, because people do like to exert influence. They like to have a position of control in the lives of others. People don't like it when you don't really validate their position on something, but it's all right. They will have to live with it. And as for you, well, it's okay to come in second place if second place is honestly earned. I think I'd rather honestly earn a second place position than to be given a free ride to first place, because that wouldn't really be winning at all. Till next time, thanks for watching, and goodbye.